Very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's uLaw webinar on payment integration. It's going to be, as promised in my previous webinars, these non-CPD webinars, as one is today. We're going to try and compress the time to maximize it within 30 to 45 minutes, keeping it crisp to the point, and it is being recorded for your consumption later on in our YouTube channel, uLawPractice. We're going to specifically focus on our payment integration process, advantages, talk a little bit about LawPay as a payment gateway, and how you as a legal firm can benefit from this integration and the services that we're able to provide working alongside LawPay. At any time during this webinar, if you have any questions regarding today's webinar, please feel free to use the chat window. Both myself and my support staff would be more than happy to help answer those questions. And you can also email us at support@uLawPractice.com to ask those questions as well. I'm just going to enter that email. Awesome. Now, like every other webinar, I'm going to talk about specifically today's webinar around integration with LawPay payments, how you can be more efficient, compliant in integrating with LawPay. And of course, I want to take a quick segue to talk to you about LawPay if you haven't heard about this company. And you can actually visit them on their website. And it's very interesting to know that they have a separate web presence for their Canadian practice, or the work that they do with the Canadian practitioners here. And I believe it's called LawPay Canada. There you go. There's two reasons for why I wanted to highlight this particular web page. One is typically LawPay as an affinity company. It is a U.S.-based company, but they have a separate service offering for Canadian customers. So their pricing and all of that is very much in Canadian, and they also have, very importantly, the compliance aspect of that's what's required in the Canadian context when it comes to trust and general, and how best to serve legal practitioners who have both these bank accounts or vehicles of operation, right? And you can also see that they are IOLTA compliant, and they have a PCI compliance at level 1 for encryption. They've integrated with many online payments with, of course, many third-party systems, including uLaw. And currently they're working with over 50,000 law firms and about 150,000 legal professionals nationwide. Okay? So just to kind of give you the breadth of the company, the kind of support that you can expect from them. And of course, beyond all of this, the most important aspect of it all is the pricing, which I find is to be very straightforward. So you can clearly see their current plan for both trust as well as a standard plan for an operating account. And then there's a monthly fee, and then there's, of course, a certain percentage depending on the card used by your client to pay you being processed through them. Okay. I just wanted to quickly highlight LawPay and where you can find more information about them. You can just Google LawPay Canada and learn more about them. But beyond that, if there's more interest and intrigue around LawPay and you'd like to speak to one of their representatives, we are happy to pass along your information or make that connection with the LawPay personnel, okay? Because we are one of their preferred partners, and we have preferred partner pricing, which I'll make sure we update in our chat window just to give you a little bit of insight as to the promotional offers that they have for Law or uLaw customers, right? So if you have any additional questions around LawPay, you'd like to speak to one of their representatives, kindly email us at support@uLawPractice.com, and we'll be more than happy to help you out. Okay? Now, continuing with talking about the salient features of the whole integration in itself. Okay, so we wanted to highlight some of the advantages that we feel our legal clients have benefited from this integration. The first and foremost is the ability for your legal firm to get paid faster, error-free, and in a very cost-effective and convenient manner. Okay, post-COVID, many things have changed. We're all working from home, operating from home, and we're quickly evolved to a point where legal practices have to provide that same convenience and comfort to their end clients. So you look at convenience, it's a two-way street. It's both the integrated payment solution kind of almost provides a two-way convenience, one for yourself, the ability for you to receive the payment, and also for your customers to do business with you in a more fast, convenient, and effective way. Okay, and we're going to quickly, as we demonstrate the product, talk about those conveniences. The ability for you to now offer the services around accepting major credit cards, very critical, especially if clients have different credit cards like Discover or American Express. And the most important from a Canadian standpoint is the ability for you to stay compliant even if you accept payments for your retainers into your trust account. And when I talk about compliance, it's ensuring that the money that is getting deposited is only deposited into the trust account, and any service fees, any other additional fees that are charged by these payment gateway providers, in this case, LawPay, that amount is retrieved or credited from your operating account or general account. Okay, and that's something that we at uLaw have done very well with pretty much all of our payment gateway partners. LawPay is not the only company that we work with. We want to offer our clients a variety of various payment gateways. I'd say a few weeks earlier, I had done a webinar on a different payment gateway partner as well. But each partner brings to them their own set of strengths and advantages for you to explore and make a wise, informed decision about what's the best solution for you. Okay. Now, to maintain that compliance, what we've seen is a good majority of all of our partners tend to maintain separate transactional IDs, or whether that's terminal ID for your trust account, or it's called a kiosk, whatever the terminology or nomenclature may be, there's two separate wings or vehicles, one for trust and another for an operating account. Okay? That makes it easier for them to deposit and withdraw wherever necessary and however compliant possible. Within uLaw, what we've done is we've integrated that payment process right within the workflow of you working through a regular day out of work. Let's say you're accepting cash and it's just part of that client intake process. Using uLaw, we've just integrated the payment as a part of that solution, making it easier for you to do what you have to do within that workflow. So you don't have to go outside of uLaw. You don't have to enter information outside of it. We've done that heavy lifting for you already. And one of the important benefits that I see our customers have realized is sometimes when you accept checks, and if you have to now deal with bounce checks or checks that haven't cleared, then of course it's an inconvenience to yourself as a business because now you have to go back to the client, ask for more. Also for your client, sometimes it's an inconvenience because there may be some fees associated with bounce checks, which they have to then pay for, right? With credit card in general, if the credit card information is wrong, if there isn't any balance in that credit card, and if it cannot be used, payment partners are quick to notify you right away as you enter the information. so that you can request now for another credit card or another payment form. And last but not the least, what we've done at uLaw is we've integrated this payment gateway solution not only within the uLaw system, but also within important documents that you generate out of the uLaw system. And I'll talk to you about it when I demonstrate those capabilities. And that's the second largest benefit that we're starting to see our clients benefit from, is the ability that's already there embedded within their workflow and the important documents that they generate as part of that client service. Okay? Now to set up, how easy is it to set up this integration between LawPay and uLaw? What we've done at uLaw is we've made it as modular as possible for us to integrate with all payment gateway providers in a simple 1, 2, or a maximum of 3-step process. Because each payment gateway introduces a certain security component to safeguard your information. And what we've done at uLaw is, as I mentioned earlier, we work closely with these payment gateway partners, their developers, to ensure that your experience, regardless of whether you use LawPay today and maybe another payment partner tomorrow, or maybe you use someone else today and you want to shift to LawPay, we have made that experience within uLaw as seamless as possible without you having to worry about what happens behind the scene with these other payment gateway partners. Okay? And as part of my demonstration today, that's one of the main components that I'm going to walk you through, is how do you set up that experience for you. But in addition to me walking you through this, as part of our support and as part of our customer service, if you are interested, again, in any payment gateway integration capability or wanting to learn more about our partners, I kindly request you to email us at support@uLawPractice.com, and we will be more than happy to help answer any questions or facilitate a one-on-one with LawPay's sales representatives. Okay, so one of the final benefits and some of the questions that you may have is, how secure is this payment? Okay, so within uLaw, we talk about our uLaw site or application being encrypted. So we're bank-grade encrypted, 256-bit encryption. When you enter information within uLaw, whether it's capturing credit card information or any financial information to process a payment, we at uLaw don't store that credit card information. In fact, when you look at the workflow between uLaw and any other payment gateway, we're just passing the information around the amount to the third party, and you're entering the credit card information in their secure PCI compliant system. Because uLaw is not PCI compliant, we want to make sure that it's an integrated, secure handoff to this payment gateway partner. Okay, so that we're able to do. It's, as I mentioned, efficient because you don't have to, time efficient and cost efficient because you don't have to shift between systems to make that process or transaction happen. It's fast, efficient. You're able to collect your money faster. You're able to send away your customer more happily. They can actually make these payments sitting at home by you just sending them a retainer letter with the link for the payment. There's a lot of flexibility in how you can operate and accept money and do business. And it's as simple as setting up, as I mentioned, a 2-step process, in some cases a 3-step process. In others, by also giving you the flexibility of integrating payment links such as this across important documents. This is an example of an invoice. We've also made it possible to make it as part of a retainer letter. So when you're sending a retainer letter to your client, you can send it along with a payment link to make it easier on them to pay. Okay? And it's also mobile friendly, so if you are to send an invoice and they receive it on their phone, they can click this particular link and actually make a payment because it's mobile friendly and it makes it easier to do business. Bottom line. Okay? So I've spent the last 15 minutes kind of just highlighting and setting context for today's webinar. I'm going to take the next 15, maybe another 20, 30 minutes max to demonstrate life before this credit card processing with some quick examples, and maybe we'll look at additional examples of how you would transact or accept payments once you've made that integration happen. Okay? And at any time, as I mentioned before, I want to make this as a two-way street. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them our way using the chat. And I believe my support staff has embedded the link that talks about the partnership. I'll probably bring it up real quick. There it is. Here's our partner program page, and they're offering various different benefit pricing for uLaw customers. So we're more than happy for you to take advantage of that. Okay. Let me shift to uLaw, and I'll draw your attention first to our settings, because that's where it all begins. That's the place where you integrate uLaw with any third-party payment gateway. You can see it's already set to LawPay test, but for the purposes of the demo, I'm going to set this to none, because if you've not integrated or associated uLaw with any payment gateway, this is your default state. It's going to be none, and you're not going to have any information around the terminal or general terminal IDs. Okay? And let's see how that behavior works within the workflow of using uLaw as well. Alrighty, so first let me get started by adding a client as part of that initial client intake. And I'll say Mr. Alright. And let's say the source of contact is family. Let's say this is a mailing address, and in fact it's a home address. And I could add an email. And as I mentioned in my previous webinar last week, we use our uLaw toolbox within the Chrome Web Store. So you could actually use the email to start docketing email information or any correspondences that you have with Mr. Dhoni going forward. Okay? You can add a phone number, a website if that's meaningful. I'm just going to go ahead and click the Save button, create this particular client. Very straightforward, something that you do today, day in and day out. And if you're new to uLaw, then of course, we're a Canadian-based company offering a legal accounting, practice management, and a business accounting software based out of our capital here in Ottawa. And our purpose is to serve the compliance needs, the legal accounting needs, the practice management needs of legal practitioners across the country. Let me go ahead and create a matter for Mr. Dhoni. I'm going to just click the matter button, and let's call this Family Law. Okay. Of course, the nuances of the family law, the types of information that you capture, the way payments are made could be very different. I'd like for you to focus more on the workflow of how you accept money from a client directly. So let's say there is a retainer involved, okay? Now, like every other practice management system, our hope is that once you have accepted that payment, let's say you haven't used a payment gateway, you accepted some other form of payment from this client, let's say it's a check, or maybe it's in an email transfer, right? So let's say there's another form. Immediately the hope that is you would enter that information into the system and keep us abreast of what's happened with that file. So typically you would come into uLaw, click the retainer button, and hit new retainer. And let's say this is a $2,000 retainer paid by a check. Either you may have deposited this check already into your trust account, or you may come tell uLaw that you're going to, and then ensure that you've deposited in real life. Give them a receipt and deposit. We haven't transacted any amount here. We've just recorded that a transaction has happened just as an information. Okay, so this is the situation or use case prior to the payment gateway integration. And if you accept it through credit card, you may have other means, another terminal, then you have to tell us what the reference number is, so on and so forth. Okay? Let's look at the situation once you've integrated it. What if this check bounces? Then you have to come back into the uLaw system, remove that, or reapply another check, talk to your customer, get them to pay you again, and a lot of time and effort that goes behind accepting payments. And that's when we realized how convenient would it be for our clients to also accept payments right at their workflow. So you've done the client intake, done all the due diligence, maybe you've created the file, and you just have to accept the payment. Of course, we're not PC compliant, and hence we now then look for partners who are, and found ways to ensure that we can develop a integration with these compliant partners. Let me refund this retainer so we can zero this out. Write check back to Mr. Dhoni. And you could print that check as well if you like. And you can see it's a blank slate. There's no monies involved or transacted right now. Let me go into my settings. And as you can clearly see, we work with 5 major vendors today. So you have Pivotal or New Way Payments, Moneris, one of our first partners. We work with TD Canada Trust, Global Payments, and the latest being LawPay. Now, every partner has, as I mentioned, strengths. We are doing a series of webinars that highlight specifically the benefits of these partners, and predominantly it comes down to some of the nuances around the promotional offers. So what is the total cost of ownership of working with this partner? It comes down to the rate. Now, the rate is tricky because each partner has their own promotional specific offerings based on transactions, based on amount, etc., etc. And that is a conversation that we prefer that you have with them because you have a better appreciation for the transactions and all of that around your business. Okay. Now, when you look at LawPay, they've introduced an additional security layer. So not only do you need a specific kiosk or terminal ID that they give you. So let me take a step back. So let's say you're interested in LawPay and you then work with the LawPay vendor. The first thing they're going to do once you sign the paper is they're going to associate a kiosk or terminal ID for your trust account and would want you to connect your real-life trust account with their trust vehicle or kiosk or terminal ID. Likewise for general. Okay. And if you don't have trust, now that's fine. You can still just use the operating general account. It applies both the trust and general. The added advantage of trust is that it keeps you compliant because it does not withdraw fees out of the trust account. Okay. Now, in addition to having this kiosk and terminal ID and a security key, LawPay introduces a third layer of security, which is they need you to sign up with an email or a username password to go one step further. And as indicated in my last webinar, this is the same login security that they have right on their website. So it's secure.lawpay.com.login. And that is the same web page that we've redirected to. But when you pass this information over, it's done from uLaw to LawPay as a handshake in a very secure manner. Okay, so we've ensured that. I've already set up my test account. When you get your actual real-life account, you would use the LawPay as the option, enter your username and password, and automatically uLaw would ask you or prompt you to associate a particular trust account and a single general account or operating account to be connected with. And that would come from the labeled trust or chart of accounts that you've created in uLaw. So if you already got a trust account with TD Canada Trust, will prompt and you can choose whichever account you want to tie your LawPay account with. Okay? So let's say we've done this and we've helped you set up the LawPay account. You would get your own terminal ID, secret key, but also you've done one added secure layer of logging in. Okay. Now let's go back to that same client and repeat that process. I'm going to add So it's interesting. So LawPay is currently running a campaign for a $150 credit if you sign up with them to end of the month as a uLaw customer. That's very interesting. But I'll click on the Matter button here, and let's repeat that same process of accepting a retainer. In this case, when I hit retainer, you see there's a shaded gray button. Let me enter the amount. I'll say it's $3,000. And you notice this blue button for payment collection. So either you could be on the phone or in person accepting this payment. And it takes you to a secure payment gateway, which has the amount as a reference number and okay. You can accept this payment on behalf of your customer or ask them to provide you this credit card information. This is one way of doing things. Submit payment, and as you can see, this is a test account, and hence it clearly indicates as a watermark. But importantly, in real life too, what would happen if this is a real LawPay account? You would just not see this test account watermark. You would see all this information, and most importantly, you would see this authorization code. What we do in addition is we also send you an email reminder, just like how we do it for other vendors too. We send you an email reminder that says, here's the payment that you just made. You always have this. You can essentially tag this, right? If you use Gmail, I'm sure you are aware of their new system called tagging. You can call it payments and just tag them under payments, right? All right. Now the last thing in this is to accept the payment. The money has been deposited into your trust account, and let's say it's on average 3% of that $3,000. So it's about $90, I would say, if the math is right. So you would come in here and say credit card payment, already done, and here's my reference number. It's already deposited into my trust account. And the job of uLaw is to now provide a receipt to your client. It says, thank you so much. That transaction went through just fine. Now, if that credit card we entered was, it didn't have a balance, was the wrong credit card number, wrong expiry date, then LawPay would ensure that it throws out an error message so that you can capture it right then and there. You don't have to wait for the check to bounce. You can capture the problem then and there and ask for a new form of payment. Here is the payment receipt. Okay? All right. Now, another convenient way that we've integrated this payment integration is sending the retainer letter as a document. So let's say you're looking for another $2,000 of a top-up. Okay? You could generate a retainer letter asking for another $2,000 and send this email with this attachment of a retainer letter to your client. And let's say your client then opens this letter either on their phone, maybe their laptop, MacBook. Mahindra Dhoni, in this case, can click on it, and they are now redirected to the same amount. I think I entered the amount wrong. So the same process that you did with accepting the $3,000 can happen right from your retainer letter as well. The third benefit, so let's say I don't have a retainer agreement. Let me create a separate client for that. I'm going to say add to clients. Shelly Brooks, who's a referred by friends. I'm going to give you an example where there is no trust money involved. So this is still applicable to you if you're just using an operating account. Click the matter. And let's say this is a Wilson estate. So what you do in this case is you actually put the effort in. So we're going to enter a docket. So I can go ahead and say I spent, I don't know, 3 hours maybe, but I'm charging a flat rate of $650 plus taxes. And I can go ahead and generate an invoice. So one was the link being as part of the retainer letter. Second, it could also be part of a receipt. So sometimes if you are in the habit of not sending retainer letters, you're just sending a receipt, you can actually include that link in your receipt. And here is the credit card link for payment. So let's see what happens here. There you go. So if your expiry date was wrong, it's going to tell you then and there, please review the information. Okay. Okay, so this has a different authorization code. So how does this third-party system know which payment gateway needs to be used for which? That comes from the workflow that you defined. So in the invoice, we understand it's a general payment. If you came through the route of a retainer, then we know that was for retainer. If you've included the retainer link in your retainer letter, then we understand that it's for that amount as well. So it's right through the workflow embedded within uLaw. So let's take this payment and enter it. I'll say action, accept client payment, the whole amount. So this is the only manual step that you may have to do, because we've not yet done this, because it's harder to take that receipt and then input it into the system and then give you, because there are many different manual tasks that can happen in between. So once you receive the email for a payment, just like this, you get an additional email, payment receipt. All you have to do is, you know the client's name, you choose the payment transaction, and just accept that client payment. You can also provide them a payment receipt. Okay? All right, so about 37 minutes in, I'll probably take another 8 minutes because this is a question that was asked to us by one of our clients. Now what happens as I continue to use these credit card or payment gateways, there is a certain cost associated with doing business or making this convenience factor for me and my client. Of course, there is a certain cost associated with working with these payment partners. It's important for you as a legal firm to have a better grasp or a grip around the cost component. In some cases, there is a one-time or there's a fixed cost, maybe a monthly charge. And then and on top of that, there is a variable cost. And the variable cost, as I mentioned, is the percentage on the transaction amount. Thus, each payment gateway partner has their own way of sending you their invoice, right? Or a copy of the receipt of payments. There are companies that we work with who send you a total amount. There are companies that send you individualized amounts, and then you can summarize them. With LawPay, they make it convenient for you to enter a monthly fee that's important to you. If you want to capture each and every payment because you may want to charge your customer for that same charge, you can do that as well. So the quick answer to the question of how do you expense that cost, depending on the nature of the expense. So you can either add an expense category. I may have already created one. So let's go ahead and say we add an expense payment. Again, you can do it one at a time. You can use our import bank statement to do that. I believe I have something called LawPay. There you go. LawPay fees. So this could be a monthly fees if you're going to use the total summary of their charge. So you could say LawPay fees for January. Okay. Maybe the total charge was $345 total. You can pay to FiniPay. And you can say direct withdrawal. And submit this as an expense. Now, if you're going to be charging it as a disbursement, so let's say in this case, calculator. I'm going to quickly calculate 734.50 into $22 is the actual cost of doing business, which you're going to charge you over and above that $734, of course. So you would then add that as a disbursement. So you'd say add new disbursement, paid from general. You could say online payment. Again, ensuring that this is agreed upon in the retainer or engagement letter, right? Maybe it's taxes included. Coming out of your preferred operating account, which is associated with Affinity Pay. And you could say direct withdrawal. Okay. There's two different ways of associating the costs that you incur from these payment gateways, depending on whether it's an office expense or whether it's a disbursement charge if you've already signed up for that as part of your agreement. All right, so as I mentioned before, we're trying to keep this faster, crisper, and give you some more time back to your life, especially on a Friday afternoon. I'll be happy to answer any specific questions to use up the time. Otherwise, really wanted to highlight this particular integration and the salient benefits of why you should consider a payment gateway. Please feel free to reach out to us for us so that we can navigate you to the right partner depending on your needs. Today's session, of course, was talking about LawPay. You can check out more information about them on their website. They do have a separate site which talks about Canadian pricing. Okay, so with that, let me wrap up today's webinar and open the floor for any questions. Please feel free to use the chat window to ask any questions that you may have. Thank you very much. And just as a quick reminder, if you'll review our info.uLawPractice.com webinar, you can, of course, sign up for notifications. You can even download our toolbox so that you can now register to be notified. But we have our CPD session coming up, which would be for a complete 1-hour session next week. That would be in the title Law Office Client Management, where we're going to talk about the importance of specific customer or client management compliant needs of a legal office. And please do use the link provided in the chat window or just send us an email and we'll send it out to you as well. But as you can clearly see, there's a great promotion going on right now with an account credit of $150 specifically for uLaw customers. Okay? No, thank you. Any questions? Well, you don't have to register for the CPD session. If you do register your name, we just continue to notify you of upcoming webinars. Or you can just come here, check out the ones that have CPDs, and then pretty much, well, in fact, if you register, we send you the link to it. So I highly recommend that you register right here. You can just add your name, and then we'll automatically send you the link. Yep, so we do have another one coming up in March. So I think that was another question. So we have a session next week. That's a CPD. And then, of course, we're taking a break for Family Day, I believe. And there's one on March 4th. There's another one on March 25th, so at least a minimum of 2 CPDs a month. So we request you to go to info.uLawPractice.com/webinar and just register your name here. Again, we ensure not to bombard you with emails. We just send you reminders of webinars. Well, if there aren't any more questions, thank you so much for your time today. I hope I gave you the 15 minutes back in your life, and I will look forward to seeing you next week at 2 p.m. Take care.